Hello, welcome to another lesson. In the last lesson, we covered the theoretical aspect of network reconnaissance fundamentals. And in this lesson, we are getting hands-on with Nmap. We are going to start scanning networks, finding live hosts, and identifying open ports. This is where reconnaissance becomes real. So let's dive in. The first thing you must do is to ensure that your Kali Linux is running or any of your preferred Linux operating system that you want to use. I am using Kali, and now you can see that my Kali is running. One thing about Nmap is most of the time it is pre-installed, but if it is not installed, I'm going to show you how you can verify if it is installed or not. To check, you just need to type nmap then dash version, and now you can see that I have it installed because I can see the version for my nmap is version 7.8. But if after you have run this command and you realize that you do not have nmap installed, what you can do is to first update your operating system. So you're going to run the sudo apt update and you're going to wait for that to run. And now you can see that that is done running. So once you have updated your machine, the next thing you want to do is to run sudo apt install nmap, and then we want to add this -y to it so that if there is any prompt that comes up, we can just accept yes. Probably something like license information we need to read, and then probably we need to accept, then y would cater for that. So we can run this, and after we had run that, you can see that I already have nmap installed. So the next thing we want to do now is to start to run our nmap scan. So let's run our first nmap scan. The first one I would like that we run is nmap localhost. So what this scan does is that it scans the local machine because it is scanning my loopback address. Now you can see the results here. So what is happening is that it is scanning my loopback address. You can see that here, and then this is the result. You can see that for port 80, I have it open, and then port 80 is for HTTP, and then for port 3306, I have it open as well, and that is for MySQL. So these are like the services running on my local host at the moment, and that is why you can see them here. You can see the port number, the port state, and then the service running on the port. So that is our first scan. And I want to add that when you run this kind of scan, what Nmap does is that it checks the 1000 most common ports by default, because we didn't specify any ports when we are running the command. So you are going to see the output showing which ports are open out of the 1000 common ports that it checked. What if you want to scan a specific IP instead of typing localhost? We already know the IP address to our localhost, so we can just type that directly. So we can type nmap 127.1, and then we can run that, and you can see that immediately it brought up almost the same result with when we ran it as localhost. The next thing we want to do is to scan multiple ports at the same time, and to do that we can run nmap 127.0.0.1, and then we can type 192.168.1.1, which is for our router. So the first one is for our loopback address or our localhost IP address, and then the second one is for my router. So you're going to see that the scans would happen chronologically. The first one you ran would first run, that is for 127.0.1, and that of 192.168.1.1 would run after the first one had run, and that is what you are seeing here. So for the 127.0.1, you can see that we still have our two ports open. And then for the other one, which is for my router, you can see that I only have port 21 open, which is meant for FTP. Another thing we can do with nmap is that we can scan a range. And to scan a range, we can type nmap, then 192.168.1.1, then you add hyphen or -10 and you run it. And what it's going to do is that it's going to scan IP addresses from 192.168.1.1 to 192.168.1.10. So Nmap will check all the 10 addresses to find the live host. So you can be patient a bit for that to run because it might take little time. Now you can see that that is done running. You can see the final output here saying that Nmap done 10 IP addresses, 10 hosts up, scanned in 52.57 seconds. And you can see the result to all of the 10 ports here. You can see it here. You can see that it started from 192.168.1.1, then proceeded to 192.168.1.2, then here is .3, this is .4, and it is like that till .10. You can see it here. Another thing we can do is that we can scan an entire subnet. And to scan an entire subnet, what you can do is to run nmap and then you type 192.168.1.0 then /24. So this might take some time, so you can just run it and then it's going to scan for the entire subnet. But I might just close it because that will take time, but it's something you can try on your own. So in summary, what the command will do is that it's going to scan the entire subnet, that is the /24. And what /24 means is that it's going to scan all the IP addresses from 192.168.1.0 to 192.168.1.225, and that is 256 addresses. So Nmap will find all live hosts on your local network across the 256 addresses. Another thing we can do is to ping scan host discovery only. And to do that, we just need to add this SN flag to the command we ran earlier. And what the SN flag means is ping scan or no port scan. So to try that, you can just type nmap and then you type -ns and then you type -sn, then 192.168.1.0/24, and then you can run it. This might take some time as well, so I can just quit it, but it's something you can try on your own. So in summary, what the command does is that it finds live hosts without scanning ports. This is quite faster compared to the previous one because it only checks if hosts respond and not what ports are open. It is very useful for network discovery because you get a list of active IP addresses and MAC addresses without the time-consuming port scanning. So I can just quit this and then we proceed. What if we want to scan specific ports? Let's say we want to scan port 22 on our local host. So we can just type nmap, then we use the p flag, which is the port flag, and then we type 22 and we type localhost and we run it. And the moment we did that, you can see that it is showing me the details for port 22. You can see the port number is 22, the state is closed, and then the service is SSH. And this means that if we are doing something serious, this is secure because normally your SSH ports should be closed unless you are using it for something serious, and there has to be a lot of security around that. And the beauty of specifying a particular port you want to scan is that it is much faster than just scanning about 1000 ports because you know the exact port you want to scan and then you go for it. What if you want to scan multiple ports at the same time? What we can do is to run nmap, then we add the port flag again. Then we can add 22, which is for SSH, and add 80, which is for HTTP, and maybe add 443, which is for HTTPS, and then we add our local host to it. So we are scanning all those 3 ports on localhost, and then we can run this. And the moment we did that, you can see that we're having those 3 services here. We have for HTTP and we have for HTTPS. And you can see their respective port numbers here and their respective port states here. You can see that that of 22 is closed, which is SSH, and that of 4432 is closed. It is only that of 80 that is open. So this is way more secure, and this is a serious thing, and that is why it is closed. What if we want to scan a range of ports? Maybe scan between port 1 to port 100 on localhost. How can we do that? We can run nmap, then we add our p flag, and we add 1 to 100. Then we add localhost, then we run it. So it's going to scan through all the 100 ports and it's going to show us the ones that are open. You can see that we're having just port 80 to be open, and that is why we are having that here. But if you want to scan all the ports on localhost, what we can do is we can run nmap, then -p, then you add another dash in front and you add localhost. So what the -p dash means is that it is going to scan all the 65,535 ports, and this makes it much longer, but it finds services running on unusual ports. So you can use this for just thorough reconnaissance, not something fast. What if we now want to run our scan in a very fast mode? What we can do is to use what we call the F flag. So F flag means fast scan, and this scans only the 100 most common ports instead of 1000. It is way much faster, but it might miss some services. So you can only use it when you want to run fast scans. So what we can do is to type nmap, then we add our F flag, but the F will have to be in uppercase, and then we have localhost and we run it. And you can see that it is very fast. Another thing we can do is that we can run our nmap with variables. And what verbose does is that it shows the progress as Nmap scans, so we can see which port is checking in real time instead of waiting for final results. That is the beauty of verbose. Verbose is going to show you the progress of things as your scans are running. So to do that, we can type nmap and then we use the -v, which is the V flag, and then we type localhost. And now you can see that as the scan is running, it is giving me some details about it. You can see starting, you can see initiating scene stealth scan, you can see scanning localhost, you can see discovered this, like when you discover the first one, it's locked that on the screen. When you discover the second one as well, it's displayed it on the screen. You can see when it completed the scene stealth scan, and you can see when it is reporting for localhost. So you can see the details as it is moving step by step, as it is running the scan step by step. We are seeing the output on the screen. Compared to this, you can see that this is just showing us the summary of everything. It is not showing us step-by-step information involved in the scan process. Another thing we can do is that we can have something very verbose. And to do that, we are going to use the -v flag. And this gives us extra verbose output with more information about the scanning process. Nmap, then we have -vv, and then we type our localhost. And now you can see that this is even way more verbose, way more informational and detailed compared to the previous one we ran. You can see that this is not as verbose as this. This is a bit more detailed. What if we want to use our Nmap to detect service version? Yeah, we can use Nmap for service detection too. And to do that, what you need to do is to run nmap -sv and you type localhost and you run it. And what this will do is that it is going to scan and then detect versions of services that are running on our machine. So this type of scan is not just telling you that port 80 is open, but it tells you port 80 is open, but it is running so-so service. Maybe it is running Apache 2.4.9. It is going to be detailed. It's going to give you the version of the services that are running on that port. And this is critical for finding vulnerability because version equals exploit availability. You can see that it took a bit longer because Nmap probes each open port to identify the exact software and version. And if you look at the output here, you can see that it's detected that our port 80 is running on Apache, but it's running on Apache 2.4.65. So what you just need to do is to check for the vulnerabilities attached to this, and you can probably exploit that vulnerability. And you can see for the MySQL, you can see that for port 3306, the port 2 is open. You can see it for the port state, and then the service running on it is MySQL, but it didn't give us a version for that. So if you have other services that are running, the SV flag can help you detect some of those services and their respective version. And you can check if any of those versions have some vulnerabilities related to them that you can exploit. Another thing we can do with Nmap is that we can scan to detect operating system. And for us to do that, we can use sudo nmap, then we use -o, and then we type localhost. So for this is going to require password. So you're going to type in your password. What the O flag means is operating system detection. If you want to run it again, you can run it with the uppercase letter and try to run it again. And now you can see that it has given us the operating system details. So the reason why we were not getting it before was because I used the lowercase. If you look at it, you're going to see that I used the lowercase o, but you need to use the uppercase, all right? And that signifies that most of your flags are case sensitive and you need to be careful of that. Now you can see that we have our operating system details here. You can see Linux 5.x, then 6.x. You can see the OSCP here. You can see the OS details. You can see the network distance, and you can see the ports that are open as well. You can see the device type, it is general purpose. So this is how to detect operating systems and their details with the help of Nmap. Another thing we can do is that we can do aggressive scan. We can do that with the help of the A flag. And what that does is that it enables operating system version detection, script scanning, and trace routes all at once. It is a comprehensive kind of scan, but it takes longer and it is noisier. That is, it can include a lot of details or a lot of jargons that you might not need. So what I need to do that is to run sudo, then I run nmap, then I add my a flag, and then I add localhost, and then I run this. And you can wait a bit for it to be done. It's going to scan everything aggressively, including the operating system, the version, the script, the trace route. It's going to do everything all at once. So that might take some time. And now you can see that it is done. You can see that we have a lot of information. And that's why I mentioned that it is something comprehensive and might take a longer time. Also, it is noisier. And you can see that you have a lot of information here. The ones we need and the ones we don't need, we have them there already. So you'll be the one to select the one you need from the information and proceed with that. Next thing we can do is to save our scan results. And Nmap can help us do that too. So if I want to scan localhost and then save the result, I can do nmap localhost. Then I will use the flag O then N. The O is in lowercase and the N is in uppercase. Then I can name the file maybe scan.txt. And what the command will do is that it's going to run the scan, get me the result, and put the result in a file. So if I should do ls here, you are going to see the file here. Can you see the file here? Scan.txt, and you can do cat scan.txt to see the content of it, and you can see that this is the content of it. And if you check this with the one that was displayed on the screen here, you're going to see that they are the same thing. So this is how to run a scan and then save the results in a file. And this is very helpful because when you are doing penetration testing or you are doing vulnerability scanning, you need to document what you are doing because you might forget. You can't store everything in your head. And this is one of the ways to quickly document without writing things down or doing copy and paste between documents and then the terminal. What if we want to save our results in many outputs? Because different systems can have different logs and different systems can manage different types of file or different formats of file. So what we can do to have our results in different file is to use the OA flag. So to do that, I can type nmap and type localhost. Then I will use O, then capital A, then I can name it scan1. And what this will do is that it's going to generate different formats. You can see that the last one I scanned, I added .txt there, but here I'm not adding anything. So I'm just adding my scan1 and I can run it. So the moment I run this and then you do ls again, you can see that we're having scan1.nmap, scan1.gnmap, scan1.xml. So it is giving me my results in different formats. That is the beauty of the -OA flag. The last command we are going to run is just a command that shows little reconnaissance practical. And that is sudo. You can run sudo nmap, then we can type sv, which is for version detection or service version detection. Then we add that of O, which is for operating system detection, and we add that of v, which is verbose. We add that of on, which is when we are writing to a file, and we can name this maybe recon underscore scan.txt, and then we add our IP address to it, which is 192.168.1.1, and you can use 127.0.1 as well, so it depends on the one you are interested in. So we can scan this, and this is going to scan through this and then get me the service versions. It's going to get me the operating system details. Also, it's going to output everything in a verbose format, and it's going to save it to a file named reconscan.txt. And you can see the results here. So if I should type ls, you can see my result here, which is reconscan.txt. So that's all for this lesson. But before we go, I have a question for you, which is a challenge question. And the question is, what is the difference between a ping scan, that is a -SN scan, and a regular prod scan? I'll come again. What is the difference between a ping scan and a regular prod scan? That's all for this lesson. If you're here to subscribe to our YouTube channel, please do that now. Also, do not forget to like, share, and comment. I would like to know the answer to the challenge question I asked you in the comments. Thank you so much and see you in the next lesson.